Ooh, YouTube live feedback loop. All right, hi everyone. My name is Willy Lamb. I'm a copywriter in P3, and I'm going to take you through my campaigns from this semester and several from last semester too. Austin Pets Alive. Now, this is an organization in Austin. It's a dog shelter, cat shelter, nonprofit, obviously. My partner Minji and I took sort of a circuitous route to this insight, but where we landed was this idea that people often choose an animal, a dog, based on their first impression. Looks, really not digging into the depth of personality between the two of you to see if it's a link, see if it's a match. So we decided to build a quiz. And I'm going to show this first and then get into the campaign. This quiz is something that existed for purebred dogs out there, where you answer questions about your personality and your life, and it matches you to a breed. But there's nothing like that for dogs at the shelter. So, introducing the Perfect Pooch Pairing Quiz. Answer a dozen questions, and a shelter employee answers the same questions about each dog, maybe a few days after it gets to know the dog. And the algorithm compares your responses and ranks your matches. Let's open it up and take a look, because I have built a working model of it. Okay, so you can see here, we've got the human questions on the left side, dog questions on the right. Read a couple of them for you. How often are you out of the house for work? How much time can you commit to walking a dog, training a dog? Do you have a fenced-in yard? Stuff like that. And then about children in the home, allergies, shedding. And then at the end, basically, what sort of relationship do you want to have? You want to be a disciplinarian, or do you want a buddy that's just going to curl up by your feet? When you put in your responses in any of these fields, 1 through 4, compares with the dogs, the behind-the-scenes number crunching stuff here. The match scores are all calculated at the bottom here. For this dog, Lump Dump, it's a 90% match. Princess Mouth, 79, etc. And we have matched with Lamangelo Carmel, a 4-year-old Pomeranian, a 92% match. To support this idea, we came up with a breed of one. Most shelter dogs are mutts. We wanted to redefine what a mutt is. Not just a mishmash of different other breeds. Each mutt is its own unique breed, a breed of one. To launch the quiz, we're having the Mutt and Greet. This is a sort of like a party, a cross-species evening at Zilker Park. The quiz, as I said, launches then. People get to show up and take the quiz. There'll be a selection of adoptable dogs there that you can meet immediately if you match. And if you do match to one of the dogs there, you'll get a screen like this. There's a little Lump Dump again. But if the dog isn't there that night, it'll just have a standard message: come meet your match at Austin Pets Alive. Food trucks, drinks, local radio station, Sun Radio will be broadcasting live there. And there's a radio spot here also to promote the event. But let's move on to the next one. The Muttminster Dog Show. Some are more unique. Every dog is unique, but some, well, you guessed it. In the field next to APA, we'll set up one of those large event tents and have a fundraiser. But it's a dog show, sort of crossed with like a fashion show. Dogs will walk down the catwalk, or dog walk, if you will. The dogs that do that are previously adopted dogs from APA. Owners can register to participate, send in a picture of their dog. And unlike the Westminster Dog Show, which is what the name plays off of, Muttminster, because each dog, they're almost all mutts, they compete in their own category, meaning every dog is a winner. Isn't that nice? Again, alcohol will be involved here too, just for sort of fun vibes, an evening party basically. Spreading the word, Insta-mutts. This is another way that we're pushing our redefinition of mutt, the breed of one. On Owned Social, APA's Instagram, we have named some breeds of one. The Terrible Rottreaver. The Terrible Rottreaver is a rare, wonderful breed. She's a dedicated retriever, but not so good that your kitchen is littered with a steady flow of hunted down gifts. She's a great companion too, never leaving your side, well, except for most of the time. She's a napper. Then we've got the Big Gulp Bonch Chorgwagi. The Bonch Chorgwagi, especially in toy Big Gulp form, is a small-eared, large-eared canine. He's amazingly intelligent, but not so much so that he tries to train you. And relative to breeds with extraordinary patience and focus, in those areas, toy big gulp botched chorguagis are slightly below average. And after spreading the word, we'll be asking the word, asking people to play along and come up with their own breed names. Oh, isn't that nice? Hey, everybody. Here's an exciting one. This is something that Jeb and I worked really hard on last semester and again this semester. Havahart mousetraps. This is a no-kill mousetrap, a humane mousetrap, as in the door shuts to block them in, not to snap their neck. There's a cynical shift in life that most of us make. It's a pragmatic and dispiriting change creeping in until you barely remember the feeling before it. It's the change when, in your mind, a mouse ceases to be a storybook character and becomes a reviled pest. By killing the mouse in your pantry, you accept this internal shift, turning your back on your inner child. Havahart is for those of us who fight against this dreary shift, or who at least want to live in the space in between, where a mouse in your house is not quite a guest, not quite a pest. So we work to humanize the mice by telling the story of their friends and family being murdered in their home, or at least the house that they're a guest in. I'll read one of them here. Eddie Squeakers didn't know he would die that day, and nor did Mr. Whiskers know how busy, too, he'd be. Last week, it was Miss Jenkins. Now it was little Eddie. As tiny mounds of dirt freckled the yard evermore, Mr. Whiskers grew anxious that he's not quite a guest. Not quite a pest. The tagline is below. Have a heart. Here's another one here. Hell is empty and all the devils are here. He's seen the scenes of blood and cheese in search of food, of crumbs or seeds. His mind now bitter, full with stress. It's clear that he's not quite a guest. Not quite a pest. To blow this campaign out, we struggled with this a bit because the target we're trying to speak to is someone who's, let's just put it this way. For a while, we were designing our print ads to run in the New Yorker. And you can think yourself and the people you know, experiences you've had, who out of them uses a no-kill mousetrap? Not the majority. Another way to humanize little mice is with the mouse town. In public areas, you can see the subway station here, a decal on the wall with Havahart humane mousetraps right up there. And again, taking this little mouse village, so quaint, so cute, and bringing it outdoors too, maybe in an alley. This is really cool. We designed a new box for the mousetrap to come in. This box, when unfolded and torn on perforated edges, folds back together to turn the actual mousetrap into this beautiful little cottage. At first, we were thinking it would be a way to connect with children or to not have to hide the dead mice and certain types of mousetraps from kids. But I think this is really cool. I think big kids would like it too, like Sean. There it is. And finally, we have done a radio spot. It's in an old-fashioned style, and it's a similar content to the print ads.
They took their revenge, but for what? Percy Whitepaw hadn't the tiniest clue. At the moment, he was too bewitched by the sharp scent of Parmesan. Round the corner into the pantry and a scavenger's dream. He'd found it. On a tiny silver platter, too. As Percy approached the hunk of cheese, the floor under him grew stickier and stickier until he could no longer lift his paws. And in his final moments, he could only laugh, chuckling, "Dearie dear, I suppose it's clear." 'Cause now and there, Percy Whitepaw finally understood his true rank in that house. Not quite a guest. This has been an excerpt from Not Quite a Pest, brought directly to you by Havahart Humane Mousetraps.
Nice. All right. Moving on to, this is sort of the black sheep campaign for me for a while. Could never quite get it to fit somewhere. And really, it was just an exercise in writing headlines. And so that is what this is. Shout out to Bridget McDonald for her help. This is a gum disease PSA. More specifically, about the main symptom, I guess I should say, of gum disease. You've probably smelled it. It's a certain type of fetid, bad breath that brushing your teeth doesn't get rid of. You can smell it a yard away, maybe even a meter. The catch is, most people don't know they have it. Friends don't tell them. And the only way to get rid of it is to go to the dentist. So here we go. Nobody wants to hear your secret. Trust a dentist for the truth. That's the tagline. ADA, and then the URL is findadentist.ada.org. The punchline wasn't the most offensive part of your joke. Trust a dentist for the truth. That stick of gum wasn't just for you. Trust a dentist for the truth. And turn heads intentionally. So as you can see, same tone throughout, a little bit negative, but I think the level of humor more than compensates for that. Sharpie. Can I never say that right. Everyone's got their own way to say it, but the message is always the same. There's no such thing as a mistake. It's an attitude of whatever life throws you. You accept it and adapt. It means stepping with conviction into the dark, finding that silver lining in a mistake, or simply writing with a permanent marker. This is roll with it for Sharpie. We're trying to inspire people to not get stuck, to not freeze up when something doesn't go to plan. Techniques to get unstuck. Fun sort of improv adjacent activities that allow for improvised creation. Stuff like that. And Sharpie, being a permanent marker, links to this through the sort of bravery of writing with a permanent marker. Curveball is a show where professional artists do what they do while adapting to disruptions. It's making art with even less of a plan. For example, Roller Coaster Portrait is the name of an episode. This is a time-honored classic technique, fine art. An artist will sit in this roller coaster. You see the picture here. They're facing each other with a vest with a bunch of Sharpies Velcroed to it. And he has to do something he'd normally do, but in this crazy situation. You get thrown a curveball, and you see how the experience changes for you. You see how the work changes for you. That's the idea. Then there's two artists, one canvas. On this one, we have the London police pairing up to see what may arise from this collaboration, where they alternate who's working on the same canvas every few minutes, going back and forth. Not exactly groundbreaking yet, except one of them is blindfolded the entire time. The other guy is compensating, adapting, certainly not following any sort of expectation or plan, rolling with it. And finally, the moving canvas. This is another episode where, quite obviously, the canvas that the artist is painting on moves. But it moves randomly from their perspective, yet it is actually linked to what they're doing. They do a certain thing, pick up this color, canvas move. Maybe they'll catch on to it, but it's going to be sort of complex. Instead of just randomly sort of moving the canvas around, I thought this was a more interesting way, maybe for the viewer, and also provide some nice moments of tension and release in a funny way. Sometimes the static from the mundanity channel bleeds into the creativity channel. You get flustered. You lose your link to flow. The next execution is a little social program called Brain Thaw. It lives in Sharpie's Instagram page, but in the highlights. Basically, it's split into 3 sections of ways to get your brain unstuck. When all you want to do is just get back into it, but you can't. There are techniques, research talked about, some just time-honored traditions of getting your head back in the game, of getting back into a place where whatever it is you're resisting in your mind, you stop and you roll with it. The 3 different types of ways to get unstuck, we called it refresh. It's just doing something active and wacky, like opening your fridge, naming every item in the fridge, reorganizing the fridge, making sure that enemies or frenemies aren't paired up, and speaking out loud to your named foods and drinks as you do this. After refresh, disrupt. This is like Curveball, the show. This is about persisting while you're getting fucked with, basically, or distracted. After refresh and disrupt, there is a fingerprint on my screen. There is reframe, and that's just seeing something in a new way, from a new perspective. or literally doing something you always do, just in a different location or different in some other manner or form. Very nice visualizations. This is pretty interesting, I think. It's called Boomerang, and this is a distinct website. It supports collaboration between creatives on digital projects. It's a place to reach out when you're stuck or to seek a new perspective on an old project. But we really built out the details of this. The site is organized into channels, different categories of creative venture. You submit your prompt, idea, anything. It could be a song that you'd like help finishing. It could be just a cool idea for an invention, but you have no idea how to make it work by yourself. Furthermore, it could probably get even better if you had another couple people to talk about it with. The boomerang is the idea. That's the prompt that you throw that returns to you after it's been worked on by collaborators, other members. What you have to decide when you're throwing the boomerang is how many people do you want it to pass to before it comes back to you. That's the window. Right now we have it between 1 and 100 people. And then there's a type of throw, serial and parallel. So if you have a window of 10, a normal throw, serial, goes to one person, then the next individually, each person building on the previous one until it gets back to you. A parallel throw, window of 10, you throw it 10 times identically to one person, and then you get 10 responses back from 10 collaborators. Other parameters like how long each person has for it, their details like that. And something sort of important with a site like this, which you're probably thinking, is intellectual property. Like, why would I put a good idea up for some stranger to just grab? So the way the site is set up is you sign up with your real name. And every boomerang, everything your screen lays eyes on is documented. And yes, obviously there's terms of service, contracts. When you're filling out the pre-throw options, there are ways to customize ownership stake or credit, royalties, allowed use, stuff like that. And a lot of that's TBD, obviously, because I'm not an attorney, even though I may look just like one. But that's the sort of thing. Like you might say, like, oh, I'm offering split ownership over this idea. Or, no, none of us are going to make money from this, including me, but we're all going to get credit. Or you could say, look, I'm just looking for someone to talk to. You don't get anything other than the amazing opportunity to talk to me. Cool. Final execution. This is another way we ask people to roll with it. This is a microsite called Blind Fiction. It's sort of like a mind map, but with sentences instead of words. Really, it's about adding your next line to a story, having only read the previous sentence. So you get a sentence when you go to the site. That's all we show you until you participate and write the next line of the story. Really, anywhere between 1 and 75 words. And after you do that, the whole thing opens up. It's not a one-dimensional story like almost every other narrative, as in it goes from one part of the page to the other. These bubbles, these prompts, these sentences branch off at times. So you could be reading the same story with your buddy. You get to a certain point, and you both just take a different turn, and the story becomes different. In reading through the site, it gets to be a great example of crowdsourced people feeding off, building off of each other, rolling with an idea. And as a participant, it's the same sort of thing. Because after you participate once and it's blown open, you can keep going as long as you haven't read that part of the blind fiction yet. That's it for Sharpie. Shout out to the media team who we worked with beforehand for this campaign. Ooh, this is an interesting one. SpaceX. Not just space with a typo at the end. This is Elon Musk's rocket ship company. This is just an exercise in script writing. The Bad Breath campaign was headline writing, and this is script writing. It starts out with I guess we'd sort of call it a anthem manifesto spot. Sorry, Sean. 60 seconds, and I'm going to read it for you after I have a sip of water. That's more of a gulp. It's sort of in between a sulp. Ambient music plays over blackness filled with stars. A SpaceX craft silently zooms past the camera, and the camera follows in chase. The leading edge of humankind does not stretch ever outward by staying home to see what's on TV. It's because of the makers, the stay-up-laters, those of us who are daring and unafraid. The second craft appears in the distance. They're going to meet eventually. For certain things, one does not wait for permission. Americans saw a thing that needed to get done, so we went out and did it. We weren't ready to wait. We weren't going to wait. Together, as we step relentlessly into the restorative pain of the new, each of us, for himself, decides if he walks with or stands still, eventually standing alone. Ships are getting closer. You start hearing radio transmissions about docking. Whether it's another first day of school or writing chapter 1 of our human history on Mars, every journey begins the same way. The craft's dock. With one small step. SpaceX Science Fact. "30-second spot. A dad and a 5-year-old sitting at the kitchen table. There's a bowl of fruit on the table. Hey, Daddy. Yeah? What do you do at your job? Dad smiles, grabs an apple from the bowl. Okay, say I go outside and throw this really, really high in the sky. Video cuts to depiction of the dad's dialogue following the apple. And it is really, really high in the sky. And next weekend, after we drive all the way to Grandma's, as we pull into the driveway, I open the sunroof and catch that same apple. Rocket sounds start fading in from the background a little. That's what I do at work." He smiles and then says, "But not with apples." Fast cut to SpaceX rocket landing vertically, autonomously, 2 of them in tandem on small landing pads. And you hear the son go, "Wow. How about them apples?" That's what I do at work, but not with apples. Then we've got short and sweet, 6-second pre-roll. I don't know if you guys have seen this. I assume most of you have. It's called a suicide burn. These are the boosters. They lift the actual craft or whatever up very high. And then they detach. And they just free fall down to Earth, mostly, with little micro burns to adjust course. And because fuel is heavy, and the more fuel you have on there, the more weight you are, meaning the more fuel you need to carry the fuel weight, they leave the absolute minimum amount of fuel to decelerate for landing. A suicide burn. You're timing the fuel to get to absolute zero right when you're touching down. It's some pretty cool shit. They can do that not once, but twice. Not only twice, in sync, and not only falling from the sky and then landing on 2 pads. These landing pads are on fucking barges in the ocean. Just what I described. It was a long 6-second ad description right there. Okay, it's a 96-second pre-roll. 2 rockets are landing in tandem. Voiceover. It was impossible until it wasn't. SpaceX Science Fact. Just change that from human acceleration. Human acceleration sounds a little corny. Science fact sounds a little clunky, but maybe there's a better one out there. Maybe I'm wrong. Last and least is Zippo, as in one of these bad boys. This company's been around for around 80 years. They made over 500 million Zippos. Some iconic photos from World War II, but certainly Vietnam, carvings that soldiers made on them. Actually, I think they put some crap on it and then carved into that, possibly to reduce the reflectiveness when you're hiding in the jungle. These things have been around for a long time, which means that there are a lot of Zippos out there that are really old. And they all have a lifetime warranty, but they certainly don't look the same after a few years. And we say that's the point. Zippo, etched in chrome.
Over 500 million Zippos have fired up since we started making them. And many of those original lighters are still around today because they're made for life, for your life, and for theirs. Just like you, Zippos don't look the same as when they were new. That's because they've lived. Introducing Zippo Scan, a way to preserve your Zippo story told by the scars on its case. You send in your weathered Zippo, we 3D scan the case, recording every detail, and your Zippo's sent safely back to you. If your Zippo's ever taken from you, we make you a new case to its exact documented specs. And if yours looks especially cool, we might just make a run of them for sale, named after you. Every mark, every blemish is a record of its time, its story as part of your story. When its chrome has turned cloudy, that's when its reflection of you is most clear, immortalized in the fire you carry, and now preserved by Zippo Scan. Zippo, etched in chrome.
The program itself is called Zippo Scan. Basically, to capture and preserve the unique patina, the blemishes, the scars, the marks, everything like that that makes your Zippo that maybe you've had for decades meaningful to you. You send the case, this part, into Zippo, and we 3D scan every millimeter of it to be able to document it digitally, but then reproduce it in the future if you ever lose your case. No, it's not the same thing, but it's something, and it's pretty cool to be able to, with a sentimental object, pick up where you left off. And the fact that it's going to be really expensive means that it'll feel even more meaningful. If your blemished case looks particularly cool, you might make a limited run of your Zippo for sale to the public. Which brings us to this stuff. Painted on the sidewalk. Over time, people walk on it, transforms to a worn Zippo. Wild postings. The case evolving, little by little, over time. Some nice doodling, Jeb. And these. It's like a dossier on an individual's Zippo. These are fictional. It gets the idea, it communicates the idea of the purpose of this program. It supports the Zippo Scan program. It's also just kind of interesting. In real life, you wouldn't necessarily know where all the blemishes came from. For example, A, mastering the top flip snap-in light. You know, all the Zippo tricks. B, car keys and the jeans therein, too close for comfort. And C, realistically, unknown. And this is labeled as John from Cleveland's Zippo, as you see, just to further illustrate the point that this is just a guy's lighter, you know? And as it lives with you, as so many of these things do, you do go through a lot together. And that's not the point of the campaign, because that would be sort of a corny. But the Zippo itself has a life, not literally, but it evolves, it changes. You can't go back. And it'd be cool to preserve that. This is the warranty card that comes in the box when you buy Zippo. We rewrote the second half to drive home our concept, our point here. It reads the original part. The world-famous Zippo guarantee. Any Zippo pocket lighter, when returned to our factory, will be put in first-class mechanical condition, free of charge. For we have yet to charge a cent for the repair of a Zippo pocket lighter, regardless of age or condition. And then we wrote, the finish, however, evolves over time, forging its unique place among the 500 million Zippos made right here in America, and is not guaranteed, nor would you want it to be. Just realized I should have called it a Zippo pocket lighter. The finish is not guaranteed, nor would you want it to be, nor would you want it to be.